Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real-Time Accounting webinar, where we are going to talk about moving online, what's in it for you, your clients, and how to get there. I am really excited for you guys to join us as we discuss being online. And one of the most important things we're going to talk about is how you're going to get there and resources available to provide to you. So really excited to share this all with you. My name is Carla Caldwell. I'm the founder and CEO of Caldwell Consulting and Training, as well as Candela, which is our accounting and advisory services company that allows us to work with small businesses as we provide bookkeeping and accounting services and advisory services to them. I originally started my practice almost 8 years ago now, as I started working at a couple different software companies over the past long while. My grandmother had told me when I went off to college, I needed to make sure that I got a degree in something where I would always have a job. And so I did. I got my degree in accounting and found that as I was doing accounting, what I really enjoyed wasn't tax and wasn't audit. I really enjoyed analyzing the information and then working on processes and the technology piece of it. So that's really what my start came in. I worked at some software companies for about 15 or so years. And then when I started my practice again, I really wanted to focus on how to help accounting practices implement the technology and the solutions that let them run their businesses better. And so I really was excited about that and started doing training and consulting with firms. But along the way, you guys have probably been voluntold, I need help with the PTA's books or the homeowner association or whatever. And so it just kind of kept snowballing until now we have a team of 10 that are doing accounting and advisory services. Our firm has been completely in the cloud since the very beginning. We work with clients that are currently on a desktop installed solution, but assist them in going online. But I've been working with firms across the country, well, I guess across the world, really, as they are implementing solutions. So really excited to share with you what I've learned. But most importantly, today, we get to talk with a real life transformation, and that is Dina Martin. So Dina, thank you so much for joining us today. So excited to have you on the call. Tell us a little bit about your business and how you got started, and then I'm going to pepper you with questions throughout the day today. But go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I started doing some accounting work probably about 20 years ago, and I just got a job at a private investigator's office doing invoicing. And that was my first dive into QuickBooks Desktop. And then just that evolved over time. And the next thing you know, I'm handling all of the accounting for a general contractor, a big home builder. And once I got into that position and people started seeing that I knew what I was doing, more people started asking me, hey, can you help my brother with his landscaping business? So-and-so needs help figuring out payroll, this and that. And once I started helping these small businesses, I realized how much of a need there was for these small businesses to have some sort of an accounting resource, somebody to help them with QuickBooks. They didn't have the budget or the need for a full-time person in-house. And, we have all been there. We're all business owners trying to run our own business, learn accounting, learn the software. It's a lot. So I really saw the need and decided in 2005 to start my business in helping small businesses, just in the gamut. Whatever they need, I like to help with. And I enjoy doing the accounting. I enjoy teaching people how to use the software. So I was a solopreneur until about 2.5 years ago. And I used desktop that whole entire time. So it wasn't until probably 2 years ago, I dabbled in online. And probably about 6 months ago, I transitioned my whole practice to online. So it's been quite the journey.
Yes, yes, it has. And it's really fun because we're going to get to hear what that transition was like for you. And I think that's really helpful to be able to hear some different perspectives. And so I really appreciate that you're here with us. So we're going to dive into some of the most fun part of our day, and that's all the housekeeping, right? Okay, so maybe not the most fun of today, but we have a lot of folks on the call. So make sure that you are asking questions in the Q&A Q&A panel. You are going to be able to get some responses as we go along throughout the day. There will be polling questions throughout the session. There will also be some pop-up checkpoints that you're going to see that you need to respond to. You're also going to find that there is a course completion tracker that's going to deal with all that. And of course, the survey. You guys know the drill on all this fun stuff, so I won't belabor it all, but just make sure you're participating in those things so that we can make sure and get you your CPE on that if needed. And speaking of that CPE, we have 2 hours eligible from this particular session. Just, you know the rules here. Make sure you meet all those rules and life will be good for you and us, and we'll get you your certificate. So that's kind of the deal with all of those things. So we'll continue on getting into what actually is real-time accounting, and we'll dive right in. So some people have asked, and perhaps you thought about this yourself, what exactly is real-time accounting? What did we mean by that? Well, it's really when accountants and clients are accessing up-to-date accounting information in real time at the same time from anywhere on any device so that they can provide better financial insights into their business. That is really what we're talking about when we say real-time accounting. This is a firm-wide initiative. Some of you are solopreneurs or maybe a small practice, so that's pretty easy, but some of you are with larger firms, and understanding that this is really changing the conversation with our clients, allowing us to move beyond transactions to a deeper level of conversation with our clients. I have literally spoken to thousands of accounting professionals across the gamut of bookkeeping, accounting, CPAs, and so on. And we've all been attracted into our industry in a lot of different ways. And I love your story, Dina, coming in as really a user of the system and then moving into where you have a practice. And some of us have got into it because we are just good with numbers, or like me, it was, I'd always have a job if I got a degree in accounting, but we really fell in love with our clients. Like, we're really passionate about them. We tend to want to serve them and help them with so much. And that is fantastic. And that really drives us. Sometimes it drives us to give away services. Sometimes it drives us to do more than we ever thought we would. But I also know, on a serious note, that many of us are very tired and burned out and frustrated. Sometimes it feels like we're so disconnected or at odds with some of our clients because we're trying to help them and they don't understand what they need to get us, or we're not able to do it quickly enough in a very quick environment that we're in right now. Real-time accounting lets us connect with our clients in a better way so we can truly give them information they can use to make better decisions. So let me kind of give you an idea of what it might be like in a real-time accounting firm. And I think you might find, as I kind of share this, that you may do a piece or two, or would like to do a piece or two of this, but maybe it's not all the way around. So you can kind of tell us that. So a real-time accounting practice might look like this. We speak with clients potentially around the country, not just in our own area, but just from anywhere. And literally they could be from around the world, but usually somewhere in the US, if you're US based. We provide a proposal or letter of engagement electronically. We would send that to them. They would accept that engagement letter or proposal and enter in their payment information right then, now and ongoing. It could charge them for their services. Team members are going to be in person or remote or both. They're going to be able to access that accounting information on a Mac or a PC. They're going to track the progress of the work they're doing for those clients, no matter who is working on the project, no matter where they are, collaborating with one another in the firm, as well as the client, any time of the year as they grow their practice, not just once a year, and just kind of looking behind them in the rearview mirror at things. Now, instead of finding out that a client has already made decisions, last January, they bought a whatever, and you're like, why did you lease that? You should have bought it, or whatever. We can start assisting them to make better business decisions, not just tax strategy, but business planning and business strategy sometimes, that we can just kind of speak into various areas of their business. And many times we're able to save them money on just their business or their taxes, or even give them information as they try to figure out their own pricing structure or whatever the case might be. Now, if that sounds appealing to you, where we're really partnering alongside our clients, then I'm also guessing that you may have heard about some of this stuff before. This isn't the first time you've heard about going online. But over the past few years, we've had a massive change in the world with a worldwide pandemic. And all of a sudden, we've realized that COVID has accelerated that move for many businesses and many accounting practices to really embrace remote work, as well as the technology that would support all of this type of a scenario. So this session is what this is all about. Is this a passing fad? Is this something that I can kind of get through, or is this something I need to fully embrace? And what is the real benefit of moving to real-time accounting? And perhaps even more importantly than that is, how do I do it? How do I get there? And so that's what we want this session to be all about. Now, as we go through this, I really would like for this to be interactive. So please make sure that you guys are asking some questions as we go so that you can feel better about the content we're sharing, and we'll understand what you can do to make this transition happen. So first and foremost, we're going to start with why. Why should you transform your practice? Because we realize, yes, it is going to take a lot of effort. So why should we do that? How are these transformations, these changes, because, you know, accountants love change. How is this going to affect our own team, our firm, and our clients? And then once we're fully on board, we've embraced all of that. How do we actually do it? What are the steps we need to take to start that transformation? So before we do that, let's go ahead and ask our very first polling question. And this is going to be really helpful for us. Have you tried to move online before? And I say that because I know that in every session we've done, we've heard lots of different feedback on this. Some people have said, yeah, I've moved a bunch of clients online, but then I kind of stalled. Some people said, yep, I did. And I went right back to desktop. It wasn't for me. Some people have said, no, I didn't want to be half in, half out. And I just didn't see the ROI or the return on investment. And other people have said, no, I haven't, because I don't even know how to do it. I need a roadmap. I need somebody to give me the tools. So which one of those applies to you? Go ahead and respond to that. And that really just kind of gives us some feedback and kind of where you are. Throughout this session, we're going to be asking questions, and we're not going to leave the polls up forever. I'm going to go ahead and close this one down in 3, 2, and 1. And of course, that is exactly what we expect. We see it kind of across the board. It's not surprising. We definitely see people who are like, it's a lot. It's a lot of work to move online. Is it worth it? Some have said, I've done it and came back. Sometimes we'll dive into why that is. Maybe we don't know about all the tools that are there. And then others have said, I need the tools and I need the roadmap. So I think all of you are in the right place. So thank you for being here and letting us know. Now, one of the things that I like to do a lot is quote books. Books to me have been a phenomenal growth tool in my life. So you're going to hear this quite a bit. I'm starting with why because of Simon Sinek. If you haven't heard of him, Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. If you don't want a book on that one, he has a great short YouTube video. It's about 20 minutes long. That would be fantastic to just watch. And he talks about we really need to understand why we're doing some things, because when we start going into the direction of what we're doing, if we don't have our why, we can get derailed and discouraged really quickly. And so knowing why you should do something is really critical. So that's why we started with why. And so why are we going to do this? Well, first of all, collaboration with clients. Businesses are demanding it. Labor market changes and the future of the firm. Those are the 4 big whys. And so we're going to dive into each one of these now. So the first one is collaboration with clients. Now, before we dive into this, I wanted to ask Dina, tell me a little bit about your experience with your desktop clients and how you collaborated with them, and if that changed when you went to online, Dina.
Yeah, when we were working with desktop, a lot of our communication centered more around how are we, getting the job done, doing the data entry, swapping data files, doing backups and accountant copies, and who's got the latest version open and such. And we were really bogged down in, or I was bogged down in doing a lot of the data entry. I was so focused on getting the stuff entered. I didn't have a lot of free time to do a lot of collaboration with the clients. I have noticed since I've gone to online that it has definitely freed me up quite a bit. I'm not having to have those conversations with the client about swapping the data. I'm actually touching their accounts more often. And it's still, even though I'm touching them more often, it's still taking me less time overall during the month. And so I'm more familiar with their accounting than I was before if I was only touching it once a month. So I'm able to give them, feedback. They feel more confident because they've gone through this transition with me. We actually, I find we're communicating more often than we were before. With me being more familiar with their data and communicating more often with them, I feel like they've maybe got another level of trust with me. They're asking better questions even now. So it's been really interesting to see that. I didn't expect all of that, but it's been a nice side effect for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I know some firms are collaborating with clients. Dina, I know you have mentioned before that sometimes you had to log in to their books
Yeah.
at their office and things like that. So I know some of you are doing those types of things. But, one of the things that I found for our clients in the middle of all of the things that happened over the past couple of years when COVID first hit and everybody was kind of shut down, we really didn't change much in how we operated in our practice because we didn't have to dial in. We know I worked with firms that said, well, they couldn't dial into their clients' offices because now they weren't there. And there were issues with that, or their team wasn't ready to go. But what we found was that we were able to collaborate with our clients. We were able to connect with them. I mean, honestly, we kind of felt like a therapist sometimes. There were times when we kind of helped them navigate the crazy fear and anxiety and uncertainty that we all had. But what we found was that we were able to give them real-time information. We were able to assist them with what was going on in their business right away, immediately. Sometimes we were on the phone with them every single week for a while with the latest and greatest of what was going on with that. Being able to move to that real time or online collaboration model really allowed us to remove the friction that would happen between us and our clients, where we didn't get to see what was happening right then in their business. We weren't having to, like you said, Dina, swap data files or find out that information wasn't as up to date. When we are both online, the client could say, this is what's happening. I could actually see it. And we now could just make decisions. And I wasn't making the decisions. Obviously they were, but I was able to advise them on that. And so that was really exciting. One of the things that we realized very quickly was that people can't wait that long, right?
Mhm.
We found that people were needing to make very quick decisions, and we became somebody that they really trusted to provide that insight. And because we could be right in there with them, it really changed the insights that we could provide to them about what was going on. We're now able to go beyond just tax advice or just a balance sheet, but we could get into their cost of sales. We could look at labor costs. We could find out the impact of offering benefits to keep staff happy and just keep staff, much less make them happy, much less attract new staff. And so all of those things really were pretty exciting. I think about this often because I have a brand new, well, I say a brand new dog. He's a year old now, and he's a golden doodle, and his name is Oakley, sweetest dog ever. But he has to be groomed, which I've never had a dog that had to be groomed before. But anyway, I take him to the groomer, and when I got there, I was commenting to the person that I had a hard time finding an appointment, and that they must be really busy. And I just love small businesses. So I was super excited about that they were growing in the area that we live. And so we just started chatting, and he ended up telling me that they were going to open up another location. This was the owner. I didn't realize that at the time. And so we started talking about his business, and I was like, that's fantastic. He told me where else they had offices. And of course I know those areas, and I'm like, oh, that's a high rent area. It's great that you can, that you have the volume and all of that. And he looked at me kind of funny when I said that. And I said, oh, I'm an accountant. And he just started laughing. I had a feeling that there was something like, you're not a normal customer coming in. And we started chatting about his business. And I said something about, do you get to compare profitability across each one, and so on. And he just looked at me funny and he goes, no, but it's funny. I really want to do that, but I haven't had anybody that could help me with that. And I said, oh, do you have an accountant? And he said, yeah, but I only talk to him once a year. And I was like, oh, broke my heart, right? So of course we start chatting, wouldn't you know it? Of course, he now becomes a client. And now we're able to have a conversation about what's going on in his business and whether he should open another location or what it looks like to automate this process or that. But we connect real time and talk about things rather than discussing what happened a year ago, when today I'm making this decision about opening up another location. Today we can look at my numbers. Things have changed in a year, and waiting until once a year to have that conversation really isn't as helpful anymore. So that's the type of collaboration we're talking about that is available and that clients really are looking for. And I think that's the piece of it that gets me really excited. But Dina, I bet you have found this as well, that clients are needing to have access online. Are you finding that with your clients, that they like the ability to be able to access the information in various ways as, wherever they are?
Yeah, most definitely. I think all of us have gotten to the point where we're expecting things to be immediate. We don't wait for things like we used to anymore. And I noticed once I did bring my clients online, they didn't know what they didn't know. So now that they're using the online product, they're realizing how fast they can get that information, how they can use the QuickBooks Online phone app even to get information when they're not at their computers. And I think everybody's just gotten in the habit of expecting things very fast. And the QuickBooks Online has really been able to provide that information for my clients. And they've been really pleased with it.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that we noticed at the beginning of COVID, and really there was an internet retailing magazine that tracked this, that in a 4-month span of time, so this would have been year before last now, 85,000 businesses in a 4-month time period launched online stores or joined online marketplaces. It completely changed the way that they ran their business, and they had to make decisions quickly. And of course, they needed to have online access because many of them may have had to move locations or work from home or whatever the case is. And I mean, QuickBooks Online grew from March 2018 to July 2021, over 2 million users. 2 million customers wanted to be online and needed to be online and have switched. And what we're seeing, and you mentioned it just now, that our mobile devices, I mean, we can't even imagine walking out the door. It's like we've left somebody said yesterday, it's like we've left our keys or our wallet at home. And sometimes it is our key in our wallet, right? I mean, like it's all connected together now. My daughter is amazed when I told her, she's 12, I said, you do realize that phones used to only make phone calls. And she was like, well, that's a real stupid phone. And I'm like, well, now that's why they call it a smartphone, right? But I mean, I was thinking, I guess that makes sense in her mind. But I'm like, we used to just use it for a phone. Now it does more than computers do, So anyway, but businesses are running their businesses on their phones, and they have tons of apps. It's almost amazing to think about having our phones without an app. It's almost like, what do I do with that? Just make a phone call? Like, that's crazy, right? So businesses are running so much of their business on their phone, not just, getting phone calls from clients or checking on one or two things. They're checking bank accounts and credit cards and their accounting data and their orders and connecting with all these various things, social media accounts, and looking things up for their business. So it is a totally different world than it was even 10 years ago, even 3 years ago. It has changed dramatically. And even traditional brick and mortar businesses also are needing access to online information. We spoke with clients who needed to be able to access their information and they couldn't because it was in the office and they weren't allowed to go back to the office. And so there's just so many things that were going on. It also happened that staff was remote. So maybe some people in the office came back, but there were some that didn't go back to the office or didn't want to go to the office, had to work remote. And now we had to facilitate all of those things. And I just think that so many decisions are being made faster than they ever were before. And I think that as an accounting professional, I like the steady as you go, but I also know that when the market changes, we need to be moving with the market sometimes too. And all of the disruption over the past few years has not been just our clients. Our own teams are also working remotely. We're also needing to be online. And I know that I spoke with several accounting practices. In fact, I was coaching with one whose whole entire office wouldn't come back because they were concerned, and rightfully so. But he had to immediately, in the middle of the pandemic, set up everything to be completely online, and it was really stressful. And now he's saving so much money. He actually rented out his office during the middle of the pandemic to somebody that needed an office, and has been online. And it's just amazing to see. But as accounting professionals, we need to be able to help our clients through those transitions and be able to provide that information for them again, as they need it, when they need it, how they need it. And that's really what moving online and being real time is going to let us do. Now, our small business clients are also seeing their clients move online as well. So small businesses have to be able to access online information, online customers, and process that, and then integrate it back in with their accounting system, obviously. And so all of those pieces really have changed a lot and accelerated over the past few years. And as accounting professionals, we need to be right there with them, helping that happen. So let's ask one more polling question. I mentioned it just a moment ago about our teams being online. How many people on your team work remotely permanently? Is it nobody permanently? Maybe a couple every once in a while. All of them do up to 50%, or maybe more than 50%. So just kind of giving us some feedback on that. Dina, I know you and I have talked about this before, and you have been able to be in multiple places and working on your accounting system. And you had a team member as well that was doing that as well, or were they completely in the office most of the time?
One of my team members is in the office all the time, but she's decided to retire. So as I've started looking at hiring, one of the questions I have been asked is this something I can do from home? Because my schedule is kind of erratic. I'm kind of looking for somebody part-time and trying to mesh schedules. That is no longer going to be an issue if my employee can work remotely. So that's going to be great. And I also have a subcontractor that I work with who's in Texas, and she's a stay-at-home mom of two very young children. So she works at night and on the weekends, which is just fine. So that works out really well for us.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close down the poll in 3, 2, and 1. And wow, lots of different variations. But I bet if we were to ask a follow-up question about, have you always had remote workers? I bet the answer would definitely be no. I think it definitely changed over the past few years and was something that accounting practices, it was almost like a never ever kind of conversation. And now look, we've got people all over the map here related to how they're working with their own internal team members and being online, even some of them working remotely all the time. And so as we think about the labor market changes, it really is pretty incredible to think about what this has happened, how this has happened in our own system, our own industry rather, over the past few years. Before the arrival of COVID, there were already 7 million people working remotely. And now, of course, we went through a stage where it was nearly 100%, right? And then it has just continued to grow. At one point, they were estimating 30% of the workforce would work remotely by 2021. Of course, by 2021, again, it was nearly 100% for at least a time. And then what we're starting to see is, what does that look like going forward, with people deciding, yes, I want to go back to the office, or no, I want to stay remote, or some hybrid or combination of the two, where they're in office and out of office, working and doing things. And, my whole team has been 100% remote since the get-go. We've never had an actual office. That's not to say we don't get together. Our team is all in the North Georgia area, and we do get together because we just have a great group of people that are just really a lot of fun to be around and hang out with, and all of that. But we don't have to be in an office together, but we get to get together a lot, and I think that's really helpful. I could talk about that for days on end. We'll come back to that another time. But it's affecting us. It's also affecting our own clients. Our clients are remote many times. And even if they're not remote all the time, the picture here is, a hair salon or a barber. And you think about that, like, they have to be on site. You got to kind of touch your clients to do what they do. But the owner doesn't necessarily need to be there all the time doing things to keep up with their accounting and bookkeeping. And so being able to have an option for them to be able to work from home on some of this is also important, without being concerned that one computer, if it crashed, there'd be a problem and all the data would be gone, things like that. So the market change, as far as all of that is concerned, has really been accelerated over the past couple of years. But one of the things that I know as accounting professionals, as we've thought, okay, it's affected our clients and it's affected us, but we're going to get back to the office. We're more productive when we're in the office. Let's talk about that for just a second. A couple things. There's been studies that have shown that not to be the case, first of all. But second of all, people have said, well, I'm going to be more productive if I am going to be on desktop. I just know it better and all of this. So a long time ago, Intuit instituted something called Follow Me Homes. Now, this is not where they are literally going to your house, but they would follow you to your office, go to your office, and kind of see how you are with apps and their applications, their desktop application or the online application. And what they found was pretty staggering. And this was several years ago. They found that accounting professionals who use QuickBooks Online are saving on average 8 hours per month per client. Again, accounting professionals that are using QuickBooks Online are saving on average 8 hours per month per client. Now, some of you might be thinking, oh, I'm way faster in desktop than QBO. But let's think about some things that we often don't track. Data swapping, file sharing, dialing in, finding out that I don't know the password, they changed their password, they overwrote the accountant's copy. I dialed in, but somebody was working on the computer right then, so I had to wait and come back another time. All of those types of things, much less the automation that we'll discuss later on that you can experience in something like a QBO. But all of those things come into play. So 8 hours per month per client saved. I'll tell you, I will take that all day long. But there's also another part of the labor market that I want us to consider. So yes, we're able to now work remotely. We're able to be online. We're collaborating with clients. We're providing real-time information. But there's also another big part of our labor market that has changed recently, and that is what we're calling the Great Resignation. Obviously, a lot of people are switching jobs many times, maybe laterally, maybe they're going up, but there is a big change that's happening. But I'm also referring to the labor pool of the next generation of accounting professionals that are coming into our industry. What we have found is that there is a growing concern about workplace readiness by accounting graduates, according to a really good article in CPA Journal published late last year. What we're finding is that they may understand some of the theory, or maybe all of the theory behind accounting, but they are not as adept or astute on the technology being used inside of accounting practices. And so what we have to do is start training them. Now, remembering that these are typically younger people that are very good with technology, we want to utilize those skills as much as possible and get them up to speed as quickly as we can. And when we are thinking about hiring and attracting the next generation of accounting professionals, getting them onto better technology is important, especially knowing they're going to pick it up quickly. And so there's just a lot of pieces to that I would love to spend tons of time unpacking. But the whole idea here is that we want to be presenting our firm as a place that young people want to be a part of as they begin and grow their career. And when they're using more up-to-date technology, it is actually a way to attract them. Now, as we think about the future of our firm, there's another area here that I think is worth talking about, and that is related to the types of services that firms are offering. One of my favorite books around the idea of change management is called The Four Disciplines of Execution. And it is an actual guide map, if you will, of how to execute transformation inside of a company. And I can't tell you how much I enjoy it. I've written tons of blogs on it, articles, and taught about it. And there's a quote in that book that I really like a lot. It says that if you ignore the urgent, it can kill you today. But it's also true that if you ignore the important, it can kill you tomorrow. And what we mean by that is, all of us have deadlines, tax deadlines, month-end deadlines, payroll deadlines, filing deadlines. And if we don't get those things done, obviously our business is not going to do well. But I also know that we have things in the future that we want to get done that we need to be working on. And we need to be thinking about those things or our business can be killed tomorrow. And so these are some of the different services that firms are starting to offer as they are able to provide more advisory services to clients. And so I think these are really exciting opportunities for our industry to be providing even more valuable services to clients. Dina, I wanted to ask you as we got here, what are some of the things that you guys are starting to do or are thinking you could be adding in the future now that you have more time, as you said, to collaborate with clients?
I've done a lot of analysis and taking a lot of courses in the last year to try to, streamline my business, whether it be, aside from our accounting program, just our regular operations. And one of the things that I realized in doing that was that I was already offering a lot of these services, but it was just in natural conversation with my clients. They would be asking, I would be coaching them, and going through their accounting operational improvements. You see how they're operating because, you're having issues with this, or this, and business coaching and management. And so I've actually just been trying to work on identifying that in my everyday conversations with my clients and trying to shift my wording so that they get a better feel for the fact that they're getting this higher level kind of consulting from me, and they don't even realize it. So I'm kind of in that transition place right now where I'm trying to get to a point where I might be able to offer some of these things as standalone, add-on services. But right now, some of my clients I've had for over 15 years, and to try to tell them I'm going to have to charge you for that, it's not in the engagement agreement, that's not going to happen. So I'm still in the process of trying to identify what kinds of things I want to offer as additional services. But I think a lot of us looking through this list would agree that, we give these kinds of, advice on a regular basis to our clients. So I think it's important for us to acknowledge that and try to see how we can pull that out and make that another profit service.
Totally agree. And I agree. We talked about that before, that like we got into the business and we're doing accounting, but then we really fell in love with our clients and are just trying to find ways to help them and have done that. And so many times have given away so much advisory and consulting, as you said, that we really should be charging for. But the next clients that are coming in the door, we need to make sure that we're helping them understand the value. And if we're not currently adding any kind of additional services like this to our clients, we can and we should. We are trusted by our clients so much with such important information, and they are looking for advisors to assist them in ways we can't even imagine. And they're willing to pay for it. Some of the time I have heard that accounting or bookkeeping is going to be automated and it is going to go away and we're not going to need it anymore. And I don't agree with that. I do think that they need us still, but it is becoming more commoditized. And the real value of what we're hearing, and it's really something I've been talking about for many years, is that this type of service, these advisory consulting services, have been something that from small practitioners, solopreneurs, all the way up to large firms are really wanting to offer and are offering and are extremely valuable and extremely profitable for firms. And so what I really think is important about this is that we should be thinking about additional services that we could offer our clients, not because we're selling ice to Eskimos or something that they don't need, but because they desperately need it and because we are in a perfect position to offer it. And so I think it's something that we should be looking at. The other area that I wanted to bring up as we're talking about this is our own firm's succession planning. What is going to happen to you when you're ready or looking ahead at retirement one day, or you're exploring the next steps in your practice? Maybe you're going to sell it. Maybe you're going to merge, whatever the case is. We all would need to know what is going to make my practice more attractive to a potential buyer, or even somebody inside the firm that may want to take it over. What are those things? Well, there's a broker, an accounting broker, if you will, that is called Poe Group Advisors, and they facilitate accounting firm transitions. And one of the key factors, of course, as we would all know, is profitability. Of course, that's pretty obvious. But one of the other factors that they bring up all the time is the involvement of the owners. Because if, as the owner, I'm working 100 hours a week, when the firm is sold, somebody either needs to step into that, or perhaps even more importantly than somebody just stepping into that, is that means that they're the ones that are the primary connection with every client. And perhaps clients won't transition, or the owners. There's so many factors that come into play. And so the technology is important, and the efficiency of the firm is something that comes into play when firms are looking to be sold or purchased. And so it is a factor. A younger accounting professional who wants to buy a practice, if they find out that they have to redo every client's accounting system and every process across the firm, like that's going to come into factor of the price that they're willing to pay, because they know they have an investment of time and effort and money that might need to be happening later. So as we think about our own firm's future, I think it is high time that we also consider what is the technology, what is the efficiency that we should be implementing in our own practices, so that one day we're going to get out of our business what we've put into it and what we want to be getting out of it. Now, as I said, there is going to be a transition, and we all know that in order to do that type of transition, there is going to be a level of cost. Now, what we wanted to do was say, okay, what happens if we invest in this transition, this transformation from a desktop type of platform to an online real-time platform? And so what I really wanted to do was put some numbers behind it. We all are accounting professionals, and we want to say, okay, well, if I invest X number of dollars, what's it going to look like coming out? And so I actually saw this presentation, a version of this sheet that you're seeing on the screen here, when I was working with a lady named Marty French at Intuit. She is the accountant strategy and business development manager there. And we started talking. I saw this presentation and saw the reaction by accounting professionals as they were looking at it. And it really was pretty incredible. She has used this calculator with large and small firms, and the numbers that we've actually plugged in as our example are really conservative. I'm going to walk you guys through how to use this so you guys can see this in practice, and then you have access to it in the handouts area. You guys can actually use this yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and transition to sharing my screen. So give me just a second to set this up. I want to make sure you guys are able to see my screen. You should see the ROI calculator on my screen. And what I'm going to do is just change a few numbers here. So let me type that in and make sure that I'm on the right field there. Okay. So let's say that I have 800,000, or it was 750 a moment ago when you first opened up the document. But let's say my practice is making $800,000 across 325 clients. So those gray boxes, you guys are going to type in. So we're starting on the top left where the existing business is, and then we're going to move on. And I'll kind of walk you through each one of these. Now, let me back up. I forgot to say, this is called the ROI calculator. And if you're not familiar, ROI is return on investment. So again, I'm going to invest in transitioning clients, transforming my entire practice to being completely online. What can I expect from that? So we put in the current existing annual revenue of our clients, of our firm. We put in the number of clients that we have, and you can see that this is password protected. This whole sheet you don't type in, but you can see 800,000 divided by 325 is going to give me the average revenue per client. Okay. That's per year. Obviously, this is annual. Then what you're going to see is that we have a calculation here, averaging conservatively 30% is your current profitability per client. So out of the 2,462, you've made 738 on each client. Okay. Now, what we're thinking and what we have seen and heard based on firms from small to large, that on average, when you move to the cloud, you're going to get a 25% bump in profitability per client after you move to the cloud. So that's what that is. So now you've gone from $738 to $923 per client profit. But we know that not every client's going to move to the cloud. And Dina's going to talk about this in a minute, that some clients need to stay on desktop for whatever reason. So let's just say we only have 80% of our clients moving to the cloud. That would be 260 clients. So what you're going to see just below this is 240,000, 30% of 800 is the profit before moving to the cloud. And by moving to the cloud, the first year, you're going to bring in almost $60,000 more in profit by moving to the cloud. Just the existing clients, no change of team, no added people, just there you go. Now, in doing that, we have freed up some capacity in our team. They're more efficient than they were before. And now what we're going to see is that we can actually bring on new clients. Now, let's say that we brought on new clients at the same rate as our current ones, new profitability from new clients, total cloud-based new profitability. Now, after we have moved to the cloud, we had 800,000 to start with. We've added additional clients. We've moved those to the cloud with new clients and new growth. This is where we are. Pretty exciting if you ask me. Now let's go over here to the right side. What if we were going to add new services to our existing clients? Maybe you've never added client accounting services or client accounting and advisory services to your clients before. Well, let's say that only 60% of them said, yes, I want to have client accounting advisory services from you. So maybe you start doing their monthly accounting, you start doing some CFO or controllership services for them. Only 60%, not every client. That's 156 clients. This is maybe the annual revenue per year for those clients. So $1,000 a month. Look at what kind of revenue you've got going on. Then we have only 25% of those, 39, actually moving to a full outsourcing model with average revenue per client per year of $30,000. So just under $3,000 a year. You're talking about adding $3 million in additional revenue to existing clients that you have already. I could even hire a few people. I could make that work somehow, right? So there's some potential here for growth inside your firm by adding additional services to your clients. And I think that this really helped me identify what that return on an investment of bringing our clients onto the cloud, maybe hiring a consultant to help us or whatever resources you need to draw on to make this happen. I think all of a sudden showed me, yeah, I can do that. And then I'm going to get a return on that investment very quickly by adding these additional services. And it could be, as Dina, you said, it might just be just monetizing what you've already been giving away. And so I think that's pretty incredible to think about that from that perspective as well, because sometimes we just need to call it that we're providing consulting and advisory services. And so I think this hopefully helps you guys. Now, I will give one word of caution. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. You got to do something about this. And so we're going to help you guys with that. But let's go ahead and take a look at our next polling question. Do you have clients you plan to move to QuickBooks Online? So what does that look like for you guys? Are you guys already thinking about clients that you plan to move to QBO? And maybe this session was going to help you be 100% convinced, okay, we really are going to do this. And maybe you just needed to have some tools in your tool belt to make that happen. And so go ahead and answer this polling question. And I'm going to close it down here in just a few seconds. It's an easy yes, no. So I'm going to go ahead and close that down in 3, 2, and 1. And yes, it looks like you guys have a bunch of clients that need to be moving over to QBO. That's super exciting. So fantastic. So now we have a quick follow-up. Normally don't do back-to-back polling questions, but we are going to do that right now. So hold on. What is your timeline in the next few months? A little bit longer than that, 4 to 6 months, or maybe it's, within the next year, 6 to 12 months, or maybe you didn't answer yes on that previous slide. So go ahead and answer no. I don't plan on moving any clients at this time. That's okay too. We just wanted to kind of get a gauge because it excites us, to be honest with you, to see what all is going on with clients and with firms and how you guys are going to be moving here in the next bit. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. And you may have been thinking, I've got some that'll move right away and some a little bit later and so on. That's okay. Tell us about your timing of the first few clients. And that just kind of gets us excited to see what that looks like. So we'll go ahead and close that down in 3, 2, and 1. And that is exciting. A lot of movement. And you know what? It is okay anywhere along that scale. Obviously, we're heading into spring and summer, and it's pretty exciting to be able to handle those things in between. Maybe if you guys are doing taxes, it's in between tax season for you. Go ahead and tackle that. Some of you are thinking, you know what, maybe toward the end of the year, that's when we're going to tackle that. And so just getting a plan in place, and we're going to talk about how we can do that here in just a second. So thank you for sharing with us about that. So now that we've seen why we should make that transition to real-time accounting, from all of the way from deeper collaboration with our clients, clients are really looking for it. So many people are moving online, and then our labor market changes are happening, whether it's our clients being remote or our teams being remote. We need to be looking at that. And then also the next generation of accounting professionals we bring in. But then really it's about the future of our firm. And so we know our why. Now we need to say, okay, what does that look like for us internally? So we're going to talk about the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the customer focus for these. And again, thinking about this, we're going to get real practical with this. And I can't wait to hear, Dina, tell us a little bit about what it was like for you as you transitioned from QuickBooks Online, from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, and some of the efficiencies that you found just navigating within the application itself. What did you find?
Well, when I used desktop for so long, like you said earlier, I'm not moving. I'm so fast. I've got all my alt keys figured out. I was a speed demon in desktop. And when it came time to start using QuickBooks Online, it was like I'd hit a wall, and I was frustrated. And I hear that from other people who are considering online, like you did the poll earlier. How many of you have gone and then moved back? And I hear that a lot. But I think what it is it's a completely different program, and you have to go in there with the mindset that you're going to have to learn how to operate this new program. It's still accounting, it's still debits and credits, it's got the same check forms, but it is an online platform and not a desktop. So the way you move around is going to be a little different. But I have, in the last, I guess, 2 years since I got my first online client, I've learned all those tips and tricks. I'm very fast in QuickBooks Online now, and I've taken advantage of every little efficiency booster that QuickBooks Online has built into it. And by doing the QuickBooks Online certification and the advanced certification, I was able to see all those different ways that I could make us much more efficient in QuickBooks Online. And I've been able to share that with my clients. Don't do it like this, do it like this. It'll go a lot faster. So I definitely in the beginning was frustrated and hesitant, but the more I used the program, and I converted my own business first so that I could actually start practicing in it using my own business. And then, when it came time to telling my clients I wanted to transition them, I could tell them I've been using it for myself for all these years. And I can walk them through it and help them do that transition. So, there's so many things in QuickBooks Online that are much more efficient. One of the things I thought about the other day was I've got a client that has a credit card statement that is 17 pages long. So I know it's a nightmare. So in desktop, I can have the credit card connected in the bank feed and work through all of that. But when I go to do my reconciliation, I still have to click off all 17 pages of transactions. But in QuickBooks Online, those transactions are already checked off. And most of the time when I go into the reconciliation, within seconds, I've got a zero balance and I'm done. And I was doing one the other day and I thought, this took me over an hour in QuickBooks Desktop, and I'm so thrilled that it's so much faster in online. The bank feed really is the hub of everything in QuickBooks Online, and I've set up so many rules to automatically code things, automatically assign classes, and then a lot of times we don't even see those transactions. Once we feel comfortable with those rules, we tell it just to automatically add those to the register. Now it's pulling in bank statements. So we've actually started another cheat sheet of which clients we no longer have to go into their credit cards and their banks to pull statements, which is helping out tremendously, especially with some of us being remote and with my contractor that's in another state. I don't have to worry about pulling those documents and putting those in a folder for her anymore. They're already in QuickBooks Online. So I could go on and on about all the different pieces of QBO that have helped us be more efficient, but I think what you read earlier about saving 8 hours a month per client is extremely realistic, and in some cases even a low number, and that's been my experience. So yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Well, I mean, I just think about all the little things. Now, I don't tell this to everybody, so I'm sharing it today. So maybe I'm still not sharing it with everybody, but I used to teach desktop ages ago and work in the product. I mean, it's been so long ago. I don't even really want to talk about it. It's been a very, very long time. So it's been a while since I could really sit there and say, well, I did it this way in desktop, because I don't even remember anymore. But when I am in QuickBooks Online and I have talked to accounting professionals, one of the things that I have seen is that you have to know passwords from one app or one client to the next, or what version they're in or whatever. And here we're able to, and you can see that in the little screenshot we did here. It's just super easy with like a couple clicks. You've moved from one client to the other, super easy. And you can flip back and forth, and you can have multiple entities open all the time. You can have multiple tabs open and different things that you can access. We have one client that has like 30 entities, and we are flipping between entities all the time. And we just have our different browsers open and we just go to town. And again, we're not diving into all the gory details here, but the idea is that it literally saves hours upon hours of time. And like you said, having our bank statements brought in automatically is a big deal, but also just the way that we manage things in the application just makes such a huge difference that we're able to easily do things for our clients. And again, I'm able to do them and our clients are there, or they just happen at the same time. And it's just so easy to work with them. So the thing that I think about is, yes, QuickBooks Online is kind of the core of what we're talking about, but really the efficiencies in our practice are not just limited to the accounting application. It's also about managing our entire practice online. So when we are using QuickBooks Online as an accountant, we have QuickBooks Online Accountant, and you can see it in the screenshot in the left, kind of in gray back there. And there's a section of it called Work. The Work tab is meant for a smaller firm, And it is able to allow us to track processes and tasks by client as well as by team member, right all in there together with everything that we're doing inside of QuickBooks Online. For firms that are a bit larger, my firm with 10 people, and then way on up is Intuit Practice Management. And it's powered by Carbon. It is a full practice management solution that can range the spectrum of services and a large accounting firm is doing in their practice. But again, it allows us to manage our entire team no matter where they are. And so again, having all of these online tools to be more efficient, whether it's the actual day-to-day accounting we're doing or in managing our firm, but it's also about other processes that we're doing, whether it's onboarding a new team member or whether it is modifying our processes of how we do things like sending out engagement letters and proposals. I have seen DocuSign documents or just a Word document going to a client that they need to print and sign and take a picture or scan it and email it back and all this stuff. Well, we use an app that just changed its name recently to Ignition, and Ignition facilitates the entire proposal and letter of engagement process that is used in small to large firms, again, allowing that to be easier and a better experience for our customers. And then this really goes into how we are working with our clients as well. We're really interacting with them very differently, many times with an app. So I kind of think about accounting used to be kind of like the hub of a wheel, and then you had all these spokes off of it. But now what I'm saying a lot of times is that we are the bottom of a funnel with all of this data coming in from all the operations down into a funnel into the accounting system. And that's where we are. And that's where we get to focus as accounting professionals. And as an accounting professional, we have apps that run our business day to day and then flow down into the accounting system. The accounting system is not dictating how we do the work that we do any more than it is for the client. And speaking of that, what we're seeing is the explosion of apps. And so many times when we bring this up to accounting professionals, they're like, oh, there's so many. But what we're finding is that there are many apps that are used by the firm across the board with every client. And then there are some by industry or specific niche that they are using. So thankfully, because I don't know about you guys, but learning hundreds or thousands of apps, not my job. I can't do all that. But when I'm in a specific industry or I'm looking at the way that I serve my clients, I can pick those apps and really focus on that. And so I want to share a couple that are kind of my favorites. But Dina, what are yours? What are some of the ones that, well, first of all, how did you get started using the apps? And then what are some of your favorites? Because I love the story where you discuss how you even got started and it was because of this, if I remember correctly.
Yes, most definitely. So, I had been working in desktop for 15 years. And I decided, okay, I'm ready to finally go to an accounting conference. So I picked one and I went and I had this one track I wanted to go on. I had a goal of what I wanted to learn while I was at this accounting conference. And when I got there and I walked into the vendor room, and I was just completely blown away by the amount of apps that were available. I had no idea. I had been doing my own thing with my head down, working on desktop, and coming up with my own processes for the last 15 years. I never even looked up to see what was going on in our industry. And when I walked in that room and saw all these apps that people had developed because they heard there was a need. They were accountants themselves. They had pain points. They're like, I'm going to put people together who can fix this. I was completely overwhelmed, and I changed my whole view or my whole, goal for that conference, and actually decided to go ahead and give QuickBooks Online another look at, because I wasn't going to do it. But these apps are built out specifically, I would say 95% of them only work with QuickBooks Online, and they are meant to help make us more efficient. A lot of them are going to gather data from other apps and bring it into QuickBooks Online. So they facilitate an in between to get that information in. So some of my favorite ones, we've got Commerce Sync is a great one for syncing Shopify and Square data right in automatically into QuickBooks Online. There's an app called Shogo, which works with point of sale systems for restaurants. Uncat is a new one that I just learned that's just been out not very long at all. That's fantastic. So real quickly, if you code a transaction to uncategorized expenses, it syncs into the Uncat app and notifies the client. They get an email. They click a link in the email that takes them right to their list of transactions. They don't have to have a login or anything, where they can type a description in a field of exactly what that is. Once they've done typing in a description, it notifies me, and I can go in and I recode the transaction right in the Uncat app and hit a sync button, and it fixes them all in QuickBooks Online. It handles classes. It's just been phenomenal for us, and it's only $5 a month. So that has been huge for us. And I've actually gotten great feedback from clients that they're really enjoying it. We've got some people using Melio as a payment app now. One of my nonprofit clients is enjoying that because he used to have to drive around town to get 2 signatures on a check. And now we've got payment approvals set up in Melio where, the executive director and other people have authorization. So that's been great. QuickBooks Time used to be T-Sheets. We've used that forever. It helps with us with our billing and with our payroll. Dext is one we've adopted in the last couple of months that our clients are really enjoying. And it's been such a great app for us that I'm even using it for myself for some of our internal clients, because I found that the rules that one of my clients has to have almost all of their operating expenses split between 5 different classes. That's very time consuming. So in Dex, I can set up those rules automatically to break that out into classes and sync that over to QuickBooks, and brings over the receipt too. So there's a ton of apps out there. It can be really overwhelming, and I was definitely overwhelmed at first. I took some classes at that same conference on tech stacks, because as soon as I saw all of that, I'm like, all right, how am I going to pull this off? So, and I was very overwhelmed, but all of these apps are going to give you a free trial. They're going to have people to help you do onboarding. You can test them out on your own business. Or if you've got a good client that maybe it would be a good fit for, say, hey, I want to test out this app on your business. Do you mind? It's not going to cost anything. So that's pretty much what I've done. Reading reviews, hearing other people talk about how they're using the apps. That's helped me. And once you use a couple of apps, you kind of get the feel for how they communicate with QuickBooks Online, and it gives you some insights when it comes time to maybe try another one. So it's definitely been a learning process. But the apps really are what facilitates everything and really helps us be much more efficient. I mean, when you think about restaurant clients, and I've got an art gallery that uses specialized software, if it wasn't for the apps, we'd be manually entering all of that information. And so, even the small price of some of these apps, $20 a month, that's a very small portion of my time if I think about it that way. I'd rather pay the $20 to have it automated than have to sit there and enter it myself. So these apps have just been amazing for our business.
Well, and it's amazing to me. We literally just had a conversation with a doctor's office the other day, very cost conscious. And we started talking about something, and they asked us about a price, and we said, well, how much would it cost you for a half an hour of your time, Dr. So-and-so, if you had to key all of that in or had to deal with that? And they were like, oh yeah, that's going to be a lot cheaper because I do it once and I'm done. I don't have to do this every week or every month. I mean, surely to goodness, he can bill out a lot more in, doing what he loves to do than to be doing the back office stuff that shouldn't be, manually done anymore. So I'm right there with you. And we use a lot of different apps ourselves. But what we've done is kind of taken on one at a time. And so we'll talk about that. But one of the ones that I wanted to bring up was an app for a smaller nonprofit. Now, what we have found is that my nonprofit clients, because that's kind of really where I cut my teeth in accounting anyway, but also with my business. That's kind of how I got pulled back into not just doing consulting and training with accounting firms, but actually doing bookkeeping and accounting was a lot of nonprofits. And It was really tough because they take a lot of work with their donors and with syncing it up from the donation pages they have on their websites and the apps that, oh, I want to take donations on Venmo or Square or wherever. And I'm like, wait, let's find one tool. And we found that tool in something called Kindful, Kindful. It's one that we use with almost every single nonprofit that we have. And they're able to have an entire donor management system. At the moment they receive a donation, they can be set up as recurring. They can pay for the fees related to that donation payment, and they can have all of that completely sync into QuickBooks Online. We don't have to do a thing. It just automatically comes in and creates that for us. All of that is done. And then at the end of the year, we draft out the letter that goes out to all of the donors, click a button, and it automatically sends them a link to download their own donation statement. Or you could choose to mail some of them. We have some that, have people still writing checks. And so they do have to still mail a few, but they've gone from mailing 1,000 donation statements at the end of the year and the nightmare logistic that is to get enough volunteers to now have it completely done. And now they're fussing. They're like, we had to mail out 40 of them. And I'm like, well, that's a lot better than the 1,000 we did just a couple years ago. So it's really changing the nonprofit's workflow as well as ours. And they are thrilled that we're constantly looking for new ways. And those apps are evolving based on the specific need of their clientele, which are nonprofits. And then I just have all of that flowing into QBO like I need. It's a beautiful way to work with clients like that. Now, we also work with some clients like the doctor's office I mentioned. We don't have to integrate anything for them as far as their billing is concerned because all of their HIPAA compliance and their insurance, and they handle all of that. What we will take care of is some of the payroll and their back office billing and things like that, where we're handling the bills and the rent and the other payments and processes that they need to have. But again, we're automating those processes using tools like Melio and so on. So those are really exciting to us, that they get to conduct their business and explore the details of their day-to-day operations in an app that's designed for them. But then we'll use apps that will facilitate us to communicate and collaborate with them, and we'll focus on the financial pieces of their business. And that is a great win for us. Now, I will tell you, some of you are probably really concerned about all these apps. Let me give you a couple resources that you guys can focus on that will help you determine which apps to look at. First of all, go to apps.com, apps.com. All of the apps on that site are already vetted and approved by Intuit. Doesn't mean that the others are not good. It just means that they haven't gone through all the rigors of Intuit's testing. And then once you're there, you get to start looking at some of them. And there's many in each category. They each do things a teensy bit differently or for different audiences. So you have some evaluating to do there. Ask questions, look at reviews, reach out to others, get demos, things like that. Heather Satterley and Liz Scott are two trainers in they're colleagues of ours, of yours and mine, and they have something called the Appy Hour, and that is a podcast or a online group that you can get involved in that allows you to see some of their interviews and demos that they've had with various app partners. Really great information there, reaching out to others in your industry and in communities. And as you said, Dina, we are starting to open back up and see conferences coming up. Would love to have you guys attend those, not because I get anything out of it other than I get to meet you, but you get to meet the partners face to face and actually talk with them. And I think, again, that's a really, really helpful endeavor and one that may change the trajectory of your business. So it's pretty exciting to think about. Now, I want to make sure that we are moving on and talking a little bit more about our customer focus. One of the things that happens as we are transitioning our practices, we understand the why behind all of that. We understand that how this is going to affect us is that our team is going to be more efficient. We're going to be more effective at what we do. And now we get to be more customer focused in what we're doing. This has been an absolutely incredible thing as we take a client who is just scattered. Their processes are tough. they're manual, and we've put them onto online solutions. We've streamlined their processes as well as ours. It allows our team to be more customer focused. Our
Mhm.
bookkeepers are not doing as much data entry anymore as they are a verification of the transactions that are happening. They're now able to look at trends and highlight issues that might be going on, and they are now able to have those conversations, or the accountant or customer executive, whatever titles you guys have, they can discuss that with the client. So imagine coming to your client saying, hey, I noticed a spike in this, that, or the other. I can catch those things faster and start seeing things, rather than that once a year I'm like, hey, 6 months ago I saw a spike. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that happened. And it gets really tough. But it also allows our clients themselves to be more focused on their own customers. I'll go back to my dog groomer for just a second. One of the things that we talked about was the issue I had when I first came in, and that was, it sure is hard to get an appointment here. Well, I think about making an appointment at like 5 in the morning when I'm brushing my dog, going, oh my gosh, he needs a bath, right? Or late in the evening when I'm brushing my dog, thinking he needs a bath. But I don't do that during the middle of the day when they're open. And so I did not have the ability to create an appointment for him. So one of the things that he was able to do was focus on getting an online appointment system, so that at 5 o'clock in the morning, I can in fact make an appointment, which I do. And I now come see them more often. And so it has been a great response to customer feedback. I know it wasn't just me, but we'll take credit where credit's not due. But we wanted to make sure that they are able to focus on their clients and not sitting at the front desk keying in data from one system to another, or in any system in general. They don't have to have a complicated point of sale system. They can make it more streamlined, make it a better experience for their customer. And that just is a no-brainer for them. They definitely saw the return on that investment of new technology inside their own business. And so it's pretty exciting. And I think about that, I just said they get to see the return on an investment in technology in their business, and they see the customer experience being better, and they make more money. As accounting professionals, we should be thinking the same thing. What
Mhm.
investment in technology are we using in our own practices that allows our customers to have a better experience with our firm, so that we can be more profitable as well? Something to think about. Okay, sorry, little tangent there today. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit further about some other things that are going to be really helpful. And this is kind of the how to. What
Mhm.
are the steps that we need to take? Like, you guys are convinced, you need to be doing this. We know that we'll be more efficient, or hopefully, now you're going to be more effective, and you're going to be able to focus on what your customers do. So what are the steps that we need to take to kind of help us get this transformation started? And so that's what we want to talk about for the rest of our session time today, because now this is where the rubber hits the road, and we need to actually be doing all that we've been talking about and have a roadmap to make it happen. So let's just dive right in. And the first piece of this is to make it a priority for the firm. So I talked about earlier my favorite quote from the 4 disciplines of execution. If you ignore the urgent, it can kill you today. But if you ignore the important, it can kill you tomorrow. Now, they talk about the urgent being the whirlwind. And I don't know about you guys, but the past few years have felt like a whirlwind, right? For all of us. But on a day-to-day basis, that whirlwind is the stuff that we just need to do to keep our businesses going. The day-to-day, manage the 1099s, get the payroll taxes filed, pay the bills, do the tax returns, all of that stuff. But as a leader of a solo business or a larger firm, we have to also think a bit more strategically about that important stuff as well. And we need to get our teams ready for that. And so we want to do significant things. We want to make some changes, and we've got to make that happen. So as we get started with this idea, Dina, how did you make moving to the cloud a priority in your practice? What were some of the things that you did?
Oh boy. Well, in order to make it a priority, we actually kind of did a little analysis and kind of wrote down all the pain points we had with our existing desktop clients, and quickly realized that there were apps to solve these problems, that there were ways that we could be more efficient with these processes and online. At the time, my employee when I hired her at the beginning of 2020, she had not worked in any QuickBooks software before, and I had taught her desktop and QuickBooks Online at the same time. And there was confusion flipping back and forth between the two because they were new products for her. So, when we decided to go ahead and go to online, that was definitely a positive thing for my team because they saw, now I don't need to worry about trying to run two different softwares. So we then identified some of the clients who would be an easy switch, and kind of looked through our list and decided, are there some maybe that couldn't be moved? So by coming up with these different lists, we were able to decide that we can do this. It is something we can do. It's something we should do. My business had been around for quite some time and was stuck in a rut, and it needed to be much more efficient than it was. I wasn't charging enough for my services. So with your help, Carla, we did a complete overhaul, and we decided that it just needed to be done. I needed to stop talking about it and actually do it. So once we decided, we're going to get more into some of the other aspects of that. But once I kind of qualified it in all those different ways, it clicked in my head that this was something, regardless of the steps that were needed, regardless of how long or how, in some cases, maybe how painful it would be transitioning some of my clients, it needed to be a priority, and we needed to just buckle down and get it done.
Yeah. And it is a matter of just making the decision and saying, this is what we're going to do. Now, one real practical thing that I really admire that you did was you moved your entire firm's books from desktop to online and started using it right away and getting familiar with it. And I think that was important for you as well.
Most definitely. I can't do my clients' books in online if I'm not familiar with the product. I can't, convince them that this is going to be a good thing for them if I haven't already experienced it myself. Plus, QuickBooks Online Accountant is free for accountants. So, it really is a no-brainer. Why not do it? And again, my own practice has, I don't work on my own books very much anymore because I've taken advantage of all of those streamlines. I got QuickBooks Payments, an Intuit merchant processing account. In QuickBooks Online, my clients click on a link in an email to pay their invoice. I don't have to enter a received payment. I don't have to create the deposit. The bank feed matches up automatically. So the last time I touch that client receivable is when I send them the email for the invoice. It's a beautiful thing. So, once I started using it with my own business, it really helped solidify the idea with me that my clients would benefit from these features as well.
I love it. So as we think about making something a priority, sometimes it's a matter of we've just got to make the decision. Absolutely. Sometimes we need to sit down as your firm is a little bit bigger. We've got to talk about it and kind of create that goal. In the 4 disciplines of execution, they talk about having a wildly important goal and writing it down. And it allows us all to kind of go in that direction, especially if you have a team of people. Like, this is where we're going. This is our focus, and our concentrated effort is all going to go along this entire thing. And as we do that, we talk about, I'm going to move to online. We need to be specific so that we can track it and see how we're doing and know when we get there. If we just say we're going on vacation, but we don't say where we're going and when we're going and how we're going to do it and all of that, it's just kind of a dream at that point. So what we really need to do is kind of lay down some specifics about, what that destination looks like, how soon we're going to get there, and so on. So we need to be specific about that. And one of the things that we want to do is be able to track our progress along the way, not just have we achieved a percentage of our clients moving to online, but also what are we doing to get ready for that transition to online. In the book, they call it a lead measure. So let me explain that really quickly. A lag measure or a lead measure. The lag measure is, a financial statement. It tells us what happened last year, but other than the, tweaks that we make as accounting professionals, I can't change the numbers from last year. We can't increase sales for last year at this point. It has happened. So I really can't change anything about it. What I can do, however, is as we're going throughout this year, we start looking at how many outbound sales calls have we done? How much marketing have we done? Have we gotten prepared for making those sales? That's what we're talking about here. So we want to have some lead measures that are leading indicators that we are going to get to the goal that we've set. So we need to make sure that we're measuring things like that and being able to celebrate that along the way as we move toward that goal. Now, I also love in this book, again, I can't reference it enough because it has been so impactful in my own practice and as I have worked with firms as they move toward that. Having a scoreboard is another big one that we need to have. We need to have a way to measure things and see it. You think about watching any kind of sporting event, and I'm from Atlanta. I'm telling you, this past year in sports, we have finally had some things to cheer about. It's been pretty exciting. And let me tell you, scoreboards were pretty important watching all those sporting events, whether it was the World Series or national championships in football or whatever. We knew what the score was. We knew what was happening. We knew what inning it was. We knew what down it was. We knew whatever. So we watched scoreboards. Our businesses are doing scoreboards too. And it's not just our financial scoreboard that we may not even share with most of the team, but what is the score that we're keeping up with toward that goal that we're looking for? That's what we're talking about here. So it doesn't have to be anything fancy. We've seen poster boards with stickers and glitter and whatever, and you guys can make it sophisticated as a spreadsheet that everybody has access to or whatever. But the idea is that we all know how we're doing. And then the last part of the disciplines of execution is a meeting that is, there's a cadence of accountability, a quick check-in on this. Now, again, the smaller your firm, having a good check-in, sometimes having a coach that can keep you accountable and keep you on task can be really helpful. But having a quick check-in with team leaders or with the core team, 15 minutes. I mean, no more than 15 minutes. The only topic is how we're doing toward this wildly important goal. I mean, if it's that important, we should be talking about it, and it should be something that we are really keeping up with and looking at on a very regular basis. Not monthly, has to be more frequent. We're going to be working on this. Even small movements forward are going to get us to where we want to go, or things can stall out, as you guys all know. So it helps us to have a little bit of urgency every week we're moving toward it, but it also keeps it from being just another, Carla mentioned it. We're moving there. We'll see. It is something that's going to happen. And so we need to make sure that we're keeping the project on the road and we're moving it forward and making it happen. And so making it a priority, that is a big one. And I can't emphasize that enough. The other part of this is part of that meeting and that accountability is to have those internal conversations. Now, I know that many of you perhaps have had some of those conversations and have started talking about it. I talked to a firm and I asked them, they said, we're really stuck in this transition of what we're trying to do in our firm. And I said, okay, how is your team with it? And they were like, oh, they were on board when we told them. They were all in. I'm like, awesome. How are your meetings going? And they were like, meetings about what? And I'm like, about this wildly important thing that you're doing. And they were like, well, we sat down, had a meeting, told everybody what we were doing. Everybody kind of was like, okay, great. Like, what is it you need to be doing? They were like, oh, I need to do this. And then, they know what they need to do. So why do I need to keep, I'm not a babysitter. I don't need to keep talking about it. I'm like, okay, so let's talk about that a little bit. I don't think it can be a one and done conversation. I think this is something that we have conversations about. Dina, when you were making these transitions, how often did you guys meet to kind of keep this project moving along? What was that process like for you internally?
We had a task we needed to, a goal practically weekly, and then we had monthly check-ins with you, and we had to keep ourselves on track in order to, with our weekly goals, in order to be where we needed to be when we met with you to then go to the next step level. So we were very fortunate that to have help breaking down those steps and deciding what needed to be done because I knew what I wanted the end to look like, but I wasn't really sure what everything in between we needed to be. So it really helped to have, somebody else guiding me along. But yeah, we talked about it on a regular basis. There was a lot of homework that we needed to do, evaluating clients and such, evaluating data files. We needed to figure out which clients we're going to easily switch, which clients aside from whether the owner was going to be willing to switch or not, is their data file in a good place to switch? Some of them needed to be compressed, so there was a lot that had to happen before it took place. So, so we worked on our weekly goals and kept on track on those. And that really helped us get to the end.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, I think that as a leader in a practice that's going through a transition like this, we need to have the team's buy-in throughout the process. And if we just say, hey, we want to do this, and we don't bring it back up again, they just think, whatever, she mentioned it. It's not a thing. It's not for real. It's not serious. That's one aspect of it. But the other aspect of it is, I know as accountants, we are not exactly known for being like, oh, I want to change. I want new things. I want new software, new technology, new processes. Oh, let's have another new tax law during the middle of tax season pass. Like, let's do any of these new things. But really what I think ends up happening is that a lot of times, and studies prove this, that people don't hate change as much as they hate change happening that they don't get to be a part of. It's happening to them, instead of being able to be a part of the process and understanding why it's happening, how it affects them, how it's been thought through, what it's going to mean for them later. I had one firm that we worked with as they transitioned. She literally thought she was going to lose her job. We were like, no, we need you more than ever. We just need you doing more than just the data entry. You're good at that, but you're way better at talking with clients. And that's what they really want, is a relationship. So now you get to do more of that fun stuff. You'll still get to do some of those other things, but this is really going to help solidify those relationships with clients. And it totally changed things. So yes, change can be hard still, no matter who you are, what industry you're in. Accountants, lawyers, everybody hates it, right? Doesn't matter. But what we want to do is find a way to kind of galvanize the team together around this common goal that we're going to. It's also important that it is not just a one-time conversation. I tell accounting professionals, leaders all the time, you now have another title in addition to CPA or CEO. You also are now CRO, which is the Chief Repeating Officer. We need to repeat things over and over and over again. Now, if you think about it, your firm's values, those are not just written down. We reference it once a year. They're plastered on walls. They're on coffee mugs and mouse pads and all around the offices many times, because we want people to see it over and over again. And if this goal is so wildly important, we should be talking about it more often. The other thing that I will say is I hear from a lot of very introverted accountants say, well, I'm not like you, where I'm like, what? Let's talk about it. But you know what? I am convinced that many accounting professionals will absolutely be able to have quiet conversations, very studied, very professional conversations, and still rally the team around this goal and what it's going to do for them. And I have been a part of many of those meetings. It may not have been a cheerleading session like I would have. Maybe that's just my personality. Totally fine. But still leading your team, talking through it. What's it going to mean for them? What's that going to look like? And what the end goal will be like for them and the firm and the client. It totally is still going to be something that gets the team excited and moves us toward that wildly important goal that we've been talking about. So really excited to see that piece especially coming to play into a lot of firms as you guys are working through that. Now, I know some of you are like, okay, let's get into the nitty gritty task side of this conversation. So let's talk about that. So once we get our team ready to go, as far as understanding it's a priority, we've set up some meetings, we've started talking through this and start developing some plans. I know that one of the areas that's really tough is their confidence in a new system. Now, Dina, you had the privilege of and opportunity to change your firm's books onto QuickBooks Online and learn from that. And I know that some people work for a firm and they don't get to be in the firm's books on that. What kind of training did you do and what did your team go through as you guys were learning the new software and the new processes? What was that like for you?
Well, when I transitioned to my own business, it just so happens that we then got a new client that was on QuickBooks Online. So we had dabbled in it for a couple of months, and then now all of a sudden we've got a client we need to work on. So we had already done the QuickBooks, the basic QuickBooks Online certification. We had also already done the QuickBooks Online Advanced certification. So we already had those underneath our belt when we first started working with this one client. In the Pro Advisor training in QuickBooks Online, there's a lot more training than just the basic certification, advanced certification. There's a ton of training in there. So we definitely took advantage of that. We did free webinars. CPA Academy has some amazing free webinars. Read as much as we could, just soaked up as much information, and also looked at the different types of industries that we were going to be converting. What were their needs going to be in QuickBooks Online? Let's get familiar with, maybe the apps we're going to use with these clients, and let's try to work through some of those pain points before we actually transition them, so that we can assure the client that, we've got this all covered. It's not going to be a problem. It's all been figured out. So that helped out a lot. But we already had a lot of the training already done and felt really confident in the program. And that really helped us, convey that to the client. And I think that is one of the reasons why we were able to switch so many clients so easily. And I was actually quite surprised I didn't get more pushback than I did, was I think our confidence, and part of our mission statement is helping clients adapt technology and streamline their processes. And I kind of framed our transition of their firm in that we're going to follow our own mission statement for ourselves and become more efficient, adapt more technology. And in the process, this is what we're doing, and this is what we want for you. So in framing it that way, I was able to bring a lot of the clients along.
That's awesome. Well, and I think, depending on the size of the firm, it may be that we're able to just have a conversation, or it could be that we need to survey the team and find out where they are. And so creating a training plan may just be, hey, go to, and it's qbtrainingevents.com, and it's free training, just for the record, because I know sometimes there's other people that offer training in QuickBooks Online, but to get certified as an accounting professional in the Pro Advisor program, go to qbtrainingevents.com, and you're going to be able to see online training like virtual conferences and webinars. And maybe one day we'll be back on the road and can do it live. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, there's self-paced training and online and conferences and whatnot. And so I really encourage you to check that out. And so again, starting with at least the core certification, that should be like basic. Then there's additional training that needs to happen for the staff that's going to be in it all the time, and going through that advanced certification, I think, will also be helpful. And there's, as you said, other training around it, payroll and other kinds of opportunities to learn. And I really encourage you guys to do that. And so I think those are important pieces, like you said, to gain that confidence in there, because we've done shortcuts or workarounds in desktop for years. Many people have, and have forgotten that those are actually workarounds. We've actually thought that that was just how you did it in the software. And I get tickles and I'm like, that's a workaround. You should be able to do blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, well, that's just the way because it's the way we've always done it. So anyway, but what I want to do is also mention to you guys that as part of attending this session, you are going to have access to a document that is the accountant's onboarding and migration guide. And so Intuit has developed this resource over many years, that is going to be resources available to you guys as you onboard and migrate clients to QuickBooks Online. So they obviously have training and resources. So yes, the core certification, the advanced certification, but there's other training that's available as well. They're even providing an assessment or survey that you guys could utilize if you have a mid to smaller size firm or to a large firm. If you have several staff and you just want to kind of get a feel for where everybody is at, that survey, there's going to be a link to it inside that document that you guys have access to that would allow you to be able to utilize that resource and get to it, be able to assess your team, all of that kind of thing. So that would be part of it. And so my suggestion, just according to Carla, is everybody get certified that's going to be using QBO. That's a requirement in our firm. Anybody who touches QBO in my firm has to be QBO certified. And I mean, I'm probably a little biased toward that because I help teach some of those classes. So I figured, I should kind of do what I'm preaching there, if you will. And so that's what I would recommend. For those of you that are like, I just need to dive in and do it. If you are already on QuickBooks Online Accountant and you're registered as a QBO Pro Advisor, you already have access to all kinds of training on that platform. Go into QBOA and it'll say Accountant in the top left corner. Go to the Pro Advisor section, and then you should see a couple tabs on the right side, and then you can go to the training tab and access those there. And many of them already provide CPE for self-paced training. So really great videos and content in there that you can immediately access and get involved in. So we encourage that as well. And so getting them into the product, them meaning your team, into the product is really helpful, because that helps them do what we're going to do in our next step, which is to start having that conversation externally with the clients. This is a really big deal. Dina, you mentioned this already, that not every single client converted over from desktop to QBO. How did you communicate with your clients and help them understand that this was coming? What did you do? Did you call them all on the phone? Did you send an email? What was that like for you?
We developed an email campaign, and I hired somebody to help me with this because I'm not a writer. And I knew it really needed to be good. So I hired somebody to help me. I knew what my end goal was date wise. So we kind of went backwards and decided we needed to hit them with 3 different emails. So we figured out the timing on that, the messaging on each of them as we got closer and closer to getting this accomplished. And it was great. I was able, after the first email that went out, I got some responses. Some of them were like, sure, this is fine. Sounds great. Then I was able to move those clients up to the front of the list. And then I also got those responses that said, I don't know. So I knew those clients were going to need where I was going to need to have some more conversation. So that easily helped me, put different clients into different buckets. And then, the second one went out saying, this is our timeline. This is when it's going to happen. So that really facilitated the whole thing, and framing it in that, I'm trying to make you more efficient. There are tools here that are going to help you. It's going to be able to help me help you. All the positive things that was going to happen. Rather than thinking about, this is going to be a new program you're going to have to learn, the benefits far outweighed everything. So pointing those things out really helped. And that's how we were able to get to our final goal of getting everybody transitioned over.
I love it. Well, and you're right. I'm not a writer either. And so the thought of drafting an email that would be, the right tone and the right message and all this type of thing. Getting help for that is really, really a smart thing to do. And I had actually never thought of that before until you and I talked about that. And I thought, how awesome is that? And I totally have done that myself now. So that's a fantastic idea. So I love that. And what I found in working with accounting practices and working with my own team, the more confident they were in using the product, the easier it was to have those conversations. Now, I will say, and I know that Intuit is sponsoring this whole thing, but I'm not here to sell Intuit's product. That's not what I did. I went to the client and said, you've got this issue. I know of a way that we can handle that. It happens to be QuickBooks Online, but that's not how I didn't say, oh, you should be on QBO all the time. I just said, hey, Jane, I know you're behind with your expenses, and that process has been really tough. And I hate hearing that you're driving all over town looking for that second signature. What if we were able to make that process easier for you? It's secure. You have complete control over it still, but now we can do that by routing the authorizations, the approval process online instead of it being a physical, I have to be in front of your face to do that, but you're able to track what's going on. Would that work? Would you be open to something like that? Most of the time they're like, yes, bring it on. And then we would say, okay, well, that means that we're going to be moving here. And when we do that, we're not going to solve just this problem. We're going to solve this issue you've had and this issue you've had. Now they're understanding what's in it for them. And so I say that because my team knows my clients better than I do. They're in the books all the time. They know which real estate agent isn't tracking their mileage and getting a mileage deduction. They know which of their clients is struggling with cash flow and needs to have a quicker way to collect the money up front because they're afraid every time they go to pay the client's bills, they're going to bounce because their AR is crazy. So what we've done is we have started looking for those areas that our clients are struggling with and finding the solution that works for them. My team is much more willing to have that conversation with them. And so those are some of the things that I would encourage you to do. And it sounds like that's exactly some of the things that you did as well, Dina. And one of the things that I will also say is that we also worked with new clients. So our firm, very early on, I decided that I would take no desktop clients. Now, that was pretty easy for me. I use a Mac, and so that kind of eliminates a lot of desktop clients, right? But even then, when I brought on my team member and my first one, and she had a PC, she was just like, well, I could still do desktop clients. And that person is so sweet. We really like them. We want to work with that client. They're willing to pay us good money. Like, we could take one. And I was like, I just can't do it. Like, it just like nails on the chalkboard. I just couldn't do it. So I said, let's talk to them and see if they'll go to QuickBooks Online. And she was like, they're not going to go. And I was like, okay, well, let's just talk to them and find out what their problems are and what we could do and so on. And they decided to go to QBO. I said, this is really where we believe that we need to be as a business, where you should be as a business. These are the issues that you're facing. This is how we'll solve those issues in QBO. And they were like, okay, but we may go back to desktop if we don't like it. And I was like, not with me, you won't, but okay, we'll do that. So we converted them over to QBO. And so we decided strategically no more clients on desktop. So we still get calls all the time about clients that need support. And we find out they're on desktop and I can't help them. And so I lied. I can't help them in desktop. We can help them and we convert them to QBO. Now we have a few that they've decided not to go to QBO and they want to stay on desktop, and that is totally fine. And I will refer to them to an accounting professional if I know of one that will support them on that. But we've made that decision because this is where our firm is going and where we are going to support clients going forward. So everybody is now online. Now, most of the time, that is not a problem at all. Almost every client in pretty much every industry is able to be in QuickBooks Online. Even if not natively, they're at least able to do it with apps. And what we're finding is that more and more of them are open to that, and more of them are using apps on the operational aspect of their business that makes whatever that one key feature was that they were like, I just got to have, this particular feature. Most of the time they're getting that in their operational app that's designed for their industry or they're using for the way they need to be doing things. And that works beautifully for them. And they're okay with that. And then we focus on the areas of their business that we're really good at, which is their finances, their payables, their receivables, maybe depending on the industry, and so on. And so really it's about having confidence in what we're doing, understanding our client, and putting those needs together with the solutions that we support. And that has been a really effective way for our firm and many other firms to be going as well. And so what we've also found is that we have one particular client who has a family member doing their bookkeeping, and that person is not a trained accounting professional or bookkeeping professional. And so to say that we need to provide some oversight is probably an understatement. And so what we will do is be able to say, okay, well, that can continue, but now we can provide that oversight that allows us to see what's going on and correct issues so that we're not seeing them so far after the fact where they're making business decisions and we're like, hey, whoa, that was seriously wrong. And so what we are doing is starting to get that a little better. One of our clients, when we started talking with them and they were not all that excited about going to QBO, let's be honest, I joked around and I said, I've never seen it, but I know that there are people out there that just keep receipts piled up in their wallet. And he reaches back and pulls out a wallet. And if you've ever seen the George Costanza episode on Seinfeld, where he has this wallet of receipts tucked away and his hip was out of alignment and all this stuff, I just started laughing because I was like, oh my gosh, it's like in real life right here. And so we started talking about technology and he's like, oh, well, my family member is not going to be okay with that. They're not going to be able to take pictures of receipts. And I was like, really? So we met with that person and the first thing they did was pull out the phone and start showing me pics of the grandkids. And I was like, they know how to take pictures. They can totally use this app. And amazingly, they are really good at it, right? So we get to have those conversations and talk about these things because our team is confident. We've been trained. We're using it with other clients. And Dana, to your point, some clients are ready to go and they're your easy ones that you start getting your feet wet in, if you will. You start getting comfortable with all the new processes and so on. And that allows you to gain that confidence and that momentum inside your firm to be able to roll this out even further along to clients. But starting the conversation, knowing that there's going to be some that say, absolutely not, fine. But there's going to be plenty that are ready to go that you can get started with. And that's a good thing to do. And so as we start actually doing the actual conversion, we're going to take a desktop file, we're going to move it to QBO and all of that. There are some technical aspects of this that we need to know about, right? And there's some real technical pieces to this. For example, you have a client in desktop that's using payroll, or they used to use QuickBooks Desktop Payroll years ago, but quit for whatever reason, moved to a different platform or whatever. But when they convert, it almost reactivates that. And all of a sudden now you have some stuff in there that you weren't using anymore, or you've decided not to use QBO's payroll, or maybe they don't have employees anymore, whatever the case is. What do we do about that? What do we do if the client says, okay, well, I had inventory in desktop, but I'm going to get an app that's going to help me even more now that I'm going to QuickBooks Online. I need a more specialized app that also integrates with this, or maybe it's an e-commerce platform that handles the inventory there or whatever. What do I do about making QuickBooks Online not have inventory? Well, guess what? There is a technical guide to converting QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online that you are also going to receive that walks you through all kinds of details about this. Now, obviously, Intuit has a ton of training and resources around the actual conversion, but in just a second, I'm going to tell you, well, you know what? I'm just going to tell you now. So when it comes to moving from desktop to online, you can DIY it. Totally able to do that. This guide is going to walk you through that. I have done it several times where I've done a test conversion so that my client could see it, experience it, especially a new client. I had one a couple years ago that we converted from desktop to QBO, and I was like, we're not converting you for at least a month until you have tested and run reports and seen what it does, because I don't know your business as well, and it's a little bit more complex. Like, this was a pretty good sized company. And so I said, we need to convert it and then do some comparison reporting and processes and so on. And we were able to find a few little things that were very different for them, but we were able to manage all of those things, and it worked beautifully. But they started getting more confident in the system as well. So just food for thought there. But one of the things that's happened is that Intuit has been like, you know what, we want to help. We want to dive in there and help you. And we know that sometimes just one more thing on your plate as an accounting professional is just a lot. And so what Intuit has done is they have decided to allow Intuit to do an assisted migration for accounting professionals if you are going to move some or all of your QuickBooks Desktop clients to QuickBooks Online. Now, there's some details that you need to read about that. So let me tell you how to get there. And I realize that I didn't put it on a slide. I apologize about that. That's my fault. It's on firmofthefuture.com. And we're going to put a link to this in the chat area where you guys are going to be able to access this. But it's firmofthefuture.com, and we'll give you the link. But if you don't grab the link or whatever, just look up the word migration. And there is going to be an article there that says harness the power of QuickBooks Online to better serve your businesses and your clients. And they are going to walk you through what this does. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to register with Intuit and say, hey, I want to move some clients to QBO and I want your help. And then what you're going to do is be contacted. They will assist you with a special link that you're going to be able to just go online and upload that desktop file. There are some things that may need to be done. You mentioned already, what did you say? It needed to be compressed, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes files, they've been working on it since 1922, right? Or whatever the deal is, but they've got a lot of data in there. So it needs to be compressed, or maybe the file just has tons of transactions and they need to consolidate some of the data or whatever. So they need to do a little tweaking on that. Well, they'll do that. And then you'll create the QBO file, the empty file. And then you're going to tell them that file that it's going to go into, and they're going to convert it and put it in there for you and send you an email at the end and say, guess what? It's all done, ready to go. And so that just makes life so much easier. And you could say, okay, I'm going to upload these 4 files and Intuit's going to do all that for me. Here are the numbers that they go in, and boom, there you go. You'll get access to the file, of course, because you'll be the one that created the QBO file in the first place, and you'll be able to see it converted, run through it, run the numbers, look at the financials, check everything, and then invite your client and so on. So it is a free migration. Now, the technical guide you also may want. There's times when you just do one file yourself and you're good to go. But also, I think I like the idea of just giving Intuit the file and telling them to convert it, and they do it for me. It's even easier. So all of that to say, take advantage of this and use these resources and start identifying the clients that you want to convert over. And Dina, I love that you send out an email. You have a few early hand raisers that say, take me, and you get those done. And then you start working through the rest of them. And I think that's really important for us to be prioritizing those clients and kind of segmenting it to make it a little bit easier. So as we round out our session, this is a transformation of your practice. You are going to be able to see your firm grow. You're going to be able to collaborate with your clients. You're going to be able to respond to their business demands as they move online and need to access it. You're going to be responding to labor market changes that have happened, to be remote, but to also attract that younger generation into your firm, and then also positioning your firm in the future and what that's going to be like for you guys. So to prepare your team and clients for this, lay out the vision for them, help them understand what this is going to mean for them personally, as well as your firm and where they work and the clients they work with, and make it a priority. Discuss it a lot. Don't just mention it once. We need to keep the project rolling and then execute on it. Don't stay in analysis paralysis, but you actually need to rally the troops and take the hill. You just got to start moving and just do it. And so I encourage you guys to do that. I know some of you are dying for another polling question, and I know that we have lots of questions that we need to be answering for you guys as well. I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll and ask you about whether or not you want to have some help in assessing which clients are going to be best fit for QuickBooks Online. What's that going to look like? Do you need some help? Do you have some concerns about whether or not, a construction client or a nonprofit client or a professional services client would work? So let us know, and somebody at Intuit can give you a shout about that. And then they can help you. Dina, you mentioned that you had a few clients that had not moved to QuickBooks Online. And I think they were point of sale clients. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 So
And
those
I
were
also
ones
have
that,
I
okay.
also have a construction client that's still using desktop because they're very particular about how they want their reports, and they've been on desktop for so long that they didn't want to transition. So I still have two clients on desktop now. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what we wanted to do was make sure that you got the resources that you need, whether it's content that we can provide or whether it's somebody to walk you through helping you identify those, and then even being able to do it yourself. So again, if you didn't get those links, feel free to reach out. Would be more than happy to connect with you. Again, my name is Carla Caldwell with Caldwell Consulting and Training. You can find me on LinkedIn and Twitter and whatever. But Dina, I also wanted to say thank you to you. I have so appreciated your insights and your perspective on this type of transformation. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so very much. And if there's anything we can do to assist you, feel free to reach out and get in touch. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, and we will hopefully get to see you in person one of these days soon.